Today we're going to look at how to cultivate contentment in our kids as parents. The first is we have to become content as a parent first before we can demand or train our kids to be the same. In other words, we have to model contentment to them. So don't ever ask them to be something or do something that you yourself are unwilling to become. The second thing is never use gifts as a way of cultivating contentment in your child. Many parents like to do that. They think that if they had to give their child the very thing their child demands or desires, their child will be content. Well, God created us in such a way that there is nothing in this world that can make us content. But we can learn to be content with everything that God has already given us in this world. So teach them first to be grateful for what they already have before you give them more. So how about, when you ask parents about, okay, well, what is your greatest goal for your child? Most parents will answer it this way. My greatest hopes and goals for my children is that they would be happy one day. My question is, don't you think it'd be more important to say my greatest and highest hopes is that they will be holy one day? That they would love righteousness instead? Well, Christian parent, if your child's happiness is in fact your highest and ultimate goal, know for sure that you will end up raising an entitled narcissist. Think it through. The third thing is fight the spirit of entitlement in your child on a daily basis. Entitlement is what kills any little bit of contentment you may have. There's no such thing as an entitled, content individual. Have you ever seen a happy rebel in your life? No. From James Dean all the way through, every single person who's somewhat of a rebel is usually angry at the world, at the system, at everything around them, never happy with what they have. And so all entitled people are the way they are because of the sin of covetousness that causes them to become discontent. So you might wonder how to fight entitlement in your child. I have a few suggestions for you. The first is teach them to cope with not always getting their way. Number two, limit their access to pleasure. Limit their access to pleasure. Number three, don't cover for them when they are out of line and don't overlook their willing disobedience. In other words, always allow for consequences. Teach them to face the music. And then my fourth suggestion on how to fight entitlement in your child is instead of overpraising and falsely affirming your child, make them become honest about their own weaknesses and their own shortcomings. The final point, we'll talk about cultivating contentment in your kids, is that we have to cultivate gratitude through preaching the true gospel. If you aren't going to teach your children the gospel, my question is, who will stand before God as responsible for that mighty task of teaching them the gospel? The parent will. Don't leave it up to the church. Don't leave it up to the neighbor. Don't leave it up to the Bible study, leader of the Bible study. No, you teach them the gospel. And you always start by showing them the law and how every human being is totally depraved before God. Total depravity does not mean you are as bad as you possibly could be. It means that sin has touched every part of who you are. And only when we understand that we've been totally depraved do we realize we deserve nothing but hell. Therefore, anything that is good that comes to us, any blessing that comes to us, we're thankful for it because we know we deserve none of it. But to the person that believes that he deserves a lot, he will never be grateful for what he gets until he believes he got something beyond what he already deserves. I hope that makes sense. So the first thing is to create or cultivate contentment in your kids is be a content parent. Start off with that. Become a jovial individual, thankful for the life you have. Model that in front of your children, and you will see that'll grow in them. Number two, never use gifts as a way of breeding contentment in them. It usually does the opposite. Number three, fight the spirit of entitlement in your child on a daily basis. And number four, cultivate gratitude through preaching the gospel to them. I hope this helped you in some way.